Good morning and welcome in. This is A Little Thunder on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Mitch Nellis, aka Thunder, and you may notice I'm in a different surroundings today. I'm not on my back porch. I'm not back with the leaves and in nature where I usually like to be. And most of you know why. And if you don't, you'll find out in a couple minutes. I'm really excited to have my first guest on A Little Thunder here today. Real quick before we get to my guest, I did want to touch on, we had a discussion yesterday about Deshaun Jackson, and that discussion's not over. And what we're seeing, what Steven Jackson said, what the Philadelphia Eagles said, what the NFL said, and also what a lot of people are not saying, what a lot of NFL players, what we're not hearing from NFL players, what we're not hearing from community leaders is also very interesting. The assumption that Deshaun Jackson didn't really know what he was talking about, or maybe he knew exactly what he was talking about, and that this is something that many people believe. So this is a conversation that we are going to keep going. We're going to come back to this conversation like we come back to most of our conversations here on A Little Thunder, as we use sports as our foundation, but we're looking to find understanding. We're looking to find opportunities for discussion. And again, that doesn't mean we agree on everything. That doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, but it's giving us the opportunity to open that discussion and hear other people's viewpoints in a respectful manner, in a way that maybe makes us think. And yeah, we're not all caps on Facebook yelling about our political beliefs, and we know no one's ever going to change our mind. We may never change our mind about certain things, but we have to be open to hearing why other people think the way they do, because we live in America where people are allowed to have other opinions, and it's okay. But we need to do our fact finding. We need to do our due diligence, and then we need to share with each other, because we all have different backgrounds. We all have different upbringings. We all live in different communities. And so let's make this a way that we can educate each other. And if Deshaun Jackson is reaching out to the Jewish community in Philadelphia and they're reaching out to him, and he ends up getting an education because of this, through some really bad stuff, maybe some positive can come out of it. So with that, I want to get to my special guest today. I'm really excited. Zach has been a good friend of mine ever since I sang the Humpty Dance into his face. Basically the first time I ever met him, and I think he hated me. He's one of Mrs. Thunder's best friends from college. It was all uphill from there, though. And it all got better, and it got so much better. So, we've stayed at his house, he stayed at our house. We've done a lot of activities together, and then I was honored to be the officiant at his wedding, which was amazing. Which, when in August, when those pictures pop up on my Facebook memories, it's some of the happiest memories I have. And I'm going to bring Zach in now. Zach, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for jumping on with us today. So you heard me mention the Humpty Dance, which I'm not going to do right now, I promise. Yeah, that was it's a little early in the morning for the Humpty Dance. So I wanted to bring you in. I know that and I wanted you to have the opportunity to share your story, because I think there's a perception out there that the only people who are affected by that all these young people are having positive tests with COVID-19, but none of them are affected. They're all asymptomatic. And that if you're not 75 years old or live in a nursing home or have diabetes or other underlying conditions, that you're not affected by it. And then one of my best friends, Zach Burgess, is in the ICU for 3 weeks. And I don't understand how I put these two stories together. So I wanted to bring you in and just let you kind of tell us what you do, and how you were, basically every day you were living within, you live with it every day, and then kind of how things went for you when you got that positive diagnosis.
Well, okay, my name is Zach Burgess. I'm a 35-year-old nurse practitioner in the emergency room in Boston. So my first symptoms first started with a mild headache. I thought it was nothing, took some Tylenol, but then it continued for 3 days. On the third day, I started getting an elevated temperature, and at that point, I was very concerned that I had COVID. But it was more funny and quaint than anything else because then I had the thing that was going around. I should be fine. I did what I was supposed to do. I isolated in my room. My wife had to take care of everything. She had to take care of our 2-year-old daughter completely alone. So for 1 week, I was in my apartment bedroom. I was joking that I was just catching up on all my streaming because that's all I could really do in there is read and stream for a week. So I was spiking temperatures. I had some night sweats, nothing really big. And it was the Sunday after, or it was Easter, when things started getting really bad. That's when I was coughing so much I had a hard time breathing. I've been checking my vitals. We had the machines. We're healthcare workers. We have all the stuff. And my oxygen level in my blood was going down. So at that point, we went into Mass General, and I was very quickly admitted.
So you're admitted into the hospital, into Mass General, where you kind of, you know the lay of the land. You know the people there. You work there every day. You're treating patients there. You're helping people. You're seeing patients come in who are testing positive. You are seeing people come in with the symptoms of COVID-19. And when you get admitted, you know, what is the demographic of the people who are admitted there? You know, were people, you know, I remember right as you were getting admitted, or right as you were in ICU, there was another 39-year-old who was, you know, who was being treated, and there was a news story or something like that, and so I turned it on to see if it was you, and it wasn't, but it was somebody else. So it wasn't, and it's not just you know, the 75 and the 80-year-olds. You know, you were seeing people of all races, all colors, all ages.
Yeah, I mean, to make a quick distinction, I went to Mass General. I work at BMC. I don't know if that's
okay,
but minor distinction. So I got admitted there. I didn't really see anybody. I mean, when I was working in the fast track of the ER, I didn't really see that many COVID patients. So I can't specifically speak to your point there.
Okay.
But when I got admitted, it's a very isolative condition because I was put in my room and I got to see my nurse, and that was it. Because nobody else, I mean, people would come in, my team, but you're pretty much alone in that room with no one else around you. So I can't really.
Okay. So, and that's one of the things that people are talking about is how isolating this is.
Right.
Is that when you're positive, you know, your friends, your family, you know, even the medical team is very careful about who goes in and
Very
how much,
rightly so.
and how much PPE they're wearing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they were right not to spend that much time in the room with me, but on the other hand, you start to crave human interaction after a while.
So you got admitted.
You got admitted to the ICU.
And then what? I mean, what did you think? Oh, I'll get admitted and they'll take care of me, or I'll have to, you know, what's the process once you got admitted, and how did that lead to, you know, you being induced into a coma essentially?
So my vitals were still a little stable, especially on oxygen, but the coughing. I developed something called ARDS, or acute respiratory distress syndrome, where the coughing and the difficulty breathing was getting so bad that I was having a hard time functioning. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it took about a day or two in the hospital, and that's when they finally intubated me, where they put the tube down my throat to assist in my breathing, and then they infused drugs in me to put me in a coma. I was in that coma for about 12 days. During that time, I had a whole bunch of complications. And again, to like you repeat what you said earlier, I had no other underlying health conditions. I don't take any medications for anything. I don't have diabetes. I didn't have asthma. I didn't have a lot of the things that are worrisome or previous health conditions to make things worse with this disease. And so I was intubated and in a coma for 12 days.
So as they're getting ready to put you in the coma, and as your condition is getting worse, what are you feeling? Are you, because I know that, I know that those of us on the outside, we hear coma, we don't know what that means. We think, oh my gosh, is he gonna wake up from it? Like, you hear about people going into a coma and not waking up, and and there were tears. I mean, there were tears in Milwaukee. I'm sure there were tears. Your family in Chicago, your family in Boston. I'm sure there were. That's a scary thing. You being in the medical field, were you less scared? Were you as scared? Were you more scared? How, because that's scary.
Yeah, I mean, at the time when it was getting really bad, I actually asked to be intubated.
Okay.
I still feel a little guilty about making that decision because 30%, only 30% of people who get intubated in this atmosphere get extubated or come out of the coma. So I'm looking at the statistic that I'm about to roll the dice, and 3 times out of 10 I'll live, and 7 times out of 10 I won't.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's like, I'm getting chills right now, and I'm like getting sad all over again. And I'm sitting here looking at you, and I know you're on the road to recovery, but like hearing that stat and having the, I don't know what the word is. I don't know if it's courage. I don't know if it's intelligence. I don't know if it's,
that drowning sensation that you can't breathe.
Right. And so you knew you needed to be intubated to be saved, even if it meant it could lead to, it could lead to you not waking up.
I mean, that's wasn't a good decision. I still feel a little guilty about it, but I definitely needed to be. And then my body in the ICU was definitely needed to be where I was and what the treatments I was getting.
So you get induced into a coma, and you're in a coma for about 12 days. And then, at some point the news comes that, things are looking okay, and you're going to be in this 30%. And yet we still hear about complications of bringing people out of a coma. And are there some sort of like terrors or hallucinations with complications with COVID-19, or are there, or all sorts of myriad things that could go wrong when you bring someone out of a coma? So as they're bringing, you weren't watching you, so you weren't part of the process of bringing you out of it. But as you were taken out, what do you remember from those first couple hours, first couple days of them taking you out of the coma?
Well, at this point, I should say that it's my wife that suffered through all of this because she couldn't be bedside, which was very painful for her. She couldn't be around to take care of me, and she got updated.
And she's a doctor, so she wants to, she doesn't just want to take care of you; she wants to take care of you.
Yeah. So she can get 2 reports, basically 2 to 3 reports a day from the nurse and everything like that. So she's actually filled in a lot of what happened because I have small memories. I was very high on the medications they were giving me. So I have like spot memories of the course of after the intubation, after I got the tube out of me. But I do remember them taking the tube out and then putting the oxygen on me, which was very scary because I knew that if I didn't breathe right or this didn't go well, I was going to go back under.
Right.
So I picked a spot on the wall, I focused on it, and I just focused on my breathing for 45 minutes because if I could do that, then they would not put the tube back in me and I could go back to being just on oxygen or just a nasal cannula.
Yep. So how do you get from the point of like those first moments to, I know then you spent a couple days in rehab and then integrating back into normal life, what has that process been like?
Well, being 12 days in a coma, my body had wasted a lot. I barely had any use of my arms or legs. I couldn't move. I couldn't sit up, which was very scary. Being very helpless and relying on everybody is frustrating and scary at the same time because if the call light slips out of your hand and something's wrong, you can't do anything. You can just sort of sit and stare at the door.
Right. Yeah.
But then, so slowly but surely, strength's coming back. I got transferred to another hospital for rehab for a couple days, and then I finally got home, which was great. got to see my daughter and wife after a month. So
Wow.
from when I got admitted to the hospital to when I got discharged from rehab, it was a month. And that was a month of not seeing them at all because they couldn't come to the hospital.
Right.
And like that. I did have one friend that who worked in the hospital who came and saw me.
Okay.
And she's also the one that told me that multiple nurses on the floor told me they didn't think I was going to make it, which is also a scary fact.
So what do you feel when she tells you that? You know, and even today when you think about that, you know, they didn't think you were going to make it.
This happened if things gotten a little bit worse, then I wouldn't be here. And it's still scary.
So what do you tell people who say COVID is only an old person's disease, or that like all these people, all these 20-somethings are getting it and they're asymptomatic, and you know, some of them care and some of them don't. Maybe some of them have a cough and some of them have nothing. But you know, if you're in a nursing home, you're in trouble. So stay away from old people, or old people should all be isolating and the rest of us should live our lives. You know, what do you tell people who say it's only older people or people with underlying conditions who get sick?
I mean, I would say that, I mean, a lot of the statistics do show that the most affected population is over 80. Mm-hmm. But I would also say is that if you're looking down on the dice and rolling it to see if you have 30% chance of living, then I would recommend taking those abundance of precautions to not have to make that decision.
Absolutely. And what does it mean to you that you got to see your daughter again and you got to see your wife again? And I know your sister and your brother-in-law were, you know, you got to see them recently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what does it mean to you that you got to see your loved ones again?
Well, it's a weird feeling because it's not being able to have the short-term memory or the mental capacities when I was in the hospital. Every day I keep having more depth of the realization about how scary it was and how sad it was for people around me and for me, because like I said, when I came out of I really didn't understand what was happening to me for a while after being intubated. And it's just scary to think that, you know, again, my daughter could have been growing up without a dad and my wife could have been a widow. And
all right, so
hearing that people did think that was going to happen.
Yeah. So you come out of the coma, and you know, on a lighthearted note, what was some of the first news? What did you miss while you were in the coma? Because I know you have a pretty funny story about that.
Well, I do remember, like, I'm sitting there. I finally was able to figure out how to turn the TV on, and after a couple minutes watching news, I'm like, okay, no, we're not watching that. And then I'm not from Boston. I grew up in Utah. I lived 15 years in Chicago. I've only been here for a year, but I'm still learning the depth of sports fandom in the city. Mm-hmm. And the first news story.
I was going to say, you mean I didn't impress upon you enough? Your wife didn't impress upon you enough? The crazy fanaticism of the Boston fan?
Yeah, I did. I'm glad I was there to calm her down during the Atlanta Patriots Super Bowl, because I think she was about to tear furniture apart. No, the first thing I remember, sorry about my dog.
It's okay.
The first news fact I learned was Gronk was going to the Bucks. Because repeatedly nurses would always tell me that, like, oh, hey, great to see you again. Got to see you intubated. Did you hear Gronk went to the Bucks?
Like, that's
the first news story.
I mean, that was the most important news. I'm surprised they didn't also tell you that Gronk won the 24/7 WWE title. You know, but it's funny that that's what was top of mind with all the nurses, because they weren't in a coma for 12 days. You know, so for them that was like the news of the day that they wanted to share with you. And
sure they did.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot less pictures of Tom Brady on the walls in the hospital. I can tell you that too.
You know, it's funny. I live right by a Dunkin' Donuts, and one of the guys who works there is actually a Tom Brady fan, and he bought a Tampa Bay visor. And so I wonder, you know, but he doesn't live in Boston. He lives in Milwaukee, and he's a Brady fan. I'm guessing not a lot of Boston fans are buying their Tampa Tom Brady gear.
Nope.
So also, you know, you see the sweatshirt I'm wearing today. I'm wearing my Stanford sweatshirt because you and Mrs. Thunder are best friends from college, and you both went there. And, you know, to switch gears real quickly, 11 varsity sports cut yesterday, and most, this wouldn't have happened if COVID hadn't happening. Not Stanford specific, but we're seeing, the economy's affected and sports are affected. And, doing what you do for a living, how important is it for people to find some semblance of normalcy in their lives while things aren't normal? How much are you seeing? I'm really interested in the mental health aspect of how COVID is affecting people, both people who've tested positive, so like how you are dealing with things now, and also people who are dealing with, they're working from home now, or their kids are home, or whatever it might be. What have you seen from a mental health aspect, or what are your feelings about how people, are able to find other ways to connect when you can't, me, I'm a hugger and I can't go up and hug people right now. So I'm finding other ways to connect with people.
It's sad all around. It's frustrating all around. Even going back into the world as a COVID positive survivor, you still get more people staying away from you than before. Because it's scary, and I also appreciate people trying to reach out for some kind of normalcy, watching South Korea baseball or Bundesliga, because they need some kind of return after this long 2020. And so, I can see the need to wanting to go out and socialize and be with people, because that's what we are as humans.
Right.
But then it's also scary, because then you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know if you're going to end up with the positive results.
Absolutely. Zach, any message, anything on your mind, anything you want to share with everybody before we wrap up today? Any lasting message you just want people to take? I don't know that you want to be like plastered on billboards as like the story of like, this doesn't just happen to 75-year-olds. But is there anything you want people to take away with them today?
As a healthcare provider, as a healthy person, I always get the flu shot, not because I need it, not because it benefits me, because it helps other people. Because I could be walking around asymptomatic with the flu and get 100 people sick. Or not, but I can get a lot of people sick if I don't get the flu shot. So getting the flu shot, again, is not for me, it's for other people. And doing these things to keep ourselves safe might not be for you. You might be the healthy 18-year-old that has little to no chance of getting it, but you wear the mask, you do these things to help other people, so we can all come back into society and we can all return to some kind of sense of normalcy. So absolutely. I'm still wearing the mask. We're still quarantining. We're still doing all these precautions, even though we think we have some kind of immunity left.
Right.
But it's doing it for everybody else.
Awesome.
We can't return to normalcy until we get the schools open, until we get these things going, and we have to do it by washing hands, maintaining social distancing, wearing masks. I have to say that I'm a healthcare provider.
Yep. And I think it starts with washing your hands, and right now it's a lot bigger than that. But I think, the thing we'll take away from this for the next, 10, 20 years is, people just need to wash their hands more. And that's the start of it. That's not all of it, but that's definitely something to be respectful of other people, because you're washing your hands to keep other people healthy. Right. You're covering your mouth when you cough to help other people. You're wearing the mask to help other people. And it's certainly something that we need to, that it's important to keep in mind, that we're not just here for ourselves. We're here for each other. So, Zach, I'm not going to cry. I am so thankful and grateful that we could do this today. And that because there were times here in Milwaukee where we thought the opposite result would happen. And I just can't imagine that happening. I can't imagine our lives without you and Bridget and Z. And I know we want, when it's safe, we want to get to Boston as soon as possible because we have you, and, I have family there, and we have people we want to visit, and you're at the top of our list. So thank you for jumping on today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Zach Burgess, everybody, one of my great friends, telling his story, the opportunity to share, and would love your reaction. So again, you can email me, thundermke@gmail.com. You can post comments here as well. And if you have any questions for Zach, feel free to email me as well, and I'll get them to Zach, and I'll make sure he replies to them as well. Zach, I don't think you'll get inundated by emails or anything, so don't worry about it. But I know I'm looking at the comments right now. My buddy Ty just moved to Boston. I think it was in Belmont, so he just wants to say hi and connect. And Sarah Bellstock says, "We love Zach. So happy to see your face." And of course, Mrs. Thunder reminds you, I think, she just has, of course, lots of comments for you. So we will talk soon. All our love to the family, and thanks for joining us today.
All right. Have a good day.
You too, Zach. That's Zach Burgess, again, my really good friend. So we went long today, and I think we went long on purpose because I wanted Zach to tell his story. I wanted Zach to have the opportunity, and so we're on a different format today. I'm in a different place today, and I wanted to give Zach that opportunity. I want to give everybody else that opportunity to hear his story, and to realize that everybody says, I don't know anybody who had it, or I don't know anybody who got sick. Well, I know somebody who had it. I know somebody who got sick, and now you do too. And now you can tell that story that, yes, as Zach said, it's hitting the elderly population more. It's hitting the people with underlying complications. It's hitting them harder. But Zach is 39 years old. He has no underlying conditions. Before this, he was running 5 miles a day. He's working super long hours at the hospital, and he's still recovering from it. So thank you for being part of this. And I really do appreciate it. Again, I'm sending my love and my comfort out to everybody. Vicky, I'm right there with you. I'm glad it was a good outcome too, because as Zach said, they told him it was 30% that it'd be a good outcome. I mean, there were times we thought we'd never see our friend Zach again. So we're really glad we have that opportunity now. I'm glad he had the opportunity to share that story. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:50. We're here every day, every Monday through Friday, 7:50 a.m. Tell your friends to like the Thunder MKE page on Facebook so they can watch it as well. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about what's going on in the world, what's going on in Milwaukee, what's going on in our country and on our planet. In a foundation of sports, but we have more to talk about as well. So thank you. Make kindness happen. I'm working on it. I've always been saying practice kindness. I think I want it to be make kindness happen. We're still working on that tagline. Thunder out.